Hey everyone, I'm heading for a brand strategy session, a kickoff meeting with a client. Meeting was supposed to be last week, got canceled, so it is today. Super excited for this. Heading to Haifa to give the kind of session over there. I feel like I haven't been really vlogging, taking you with me on the road for the last few weeks and months. So if you just want to see the presentation I give to them, go ahead and skip 2 minutes ahead. But if you want to join the journey and see where I went to, join the ride.
Wow, that was one of the more intense strategy sessions that I've ever had. This company, which I cannot tell you much about at this point because I'm signed on an ADA, is a super interesting company in the electronic space, and it's definitely one of the most complicated and challenging companies to even explain or understand what they're doing. And so this is going to be a very, very interesting branding exercise, and I'm going to help them as well with the visual branding side, but also with planning out and writing their decks, their presentation to potential clients. And so trying to understand what such a complex and interesting company does and distilling it into a clear story so that their customer can understand their value is a very challenging task. And that was actually the point of today's session. Today's strategy session was, before we get on to the creative and trying to create either a story or a visual representation of the company, what is actually, who is the company, what is the DNA, and what is the reason for its being, and the values and the benefits that it's trying to create in the world. And the purpose is to create some kind of a compass that aligns the goals of the company and different people within the company, because a lot of times CEO, CTO, other people in the company each have a different kind of idea as to what is the story that we should tell. And trying to bring that all up in a session where everybody's working together and seeing where the conflicts are and solving them together is super, super important, because if you don't do this, you will bring up a solution. And if not everybody is aligned on what we're trying to achieve, what is the message that we're trying to communicate here, what is the story, then the discussion is just going to end up being, I like this or I don't like this, rather than is this solving our problem the way that we're all aligned to how it is defined. So basically, before today, I kind of had a free-form brand strategy session where I kind of interview, have a meeting with the founders of the company and have them tell me what they're doing and the story of how they founded the company, and I would ask them some questions. I also did a video about that process. But this time I wanted to be more structured. So usually I recommend this book, Designing Brand Identity, and it has a great process in it. But right now I'm reading a book called Creative Strategy and the Business of Design. And they kind of offer a different methodology, which is a little bit more structured. And I try to apply it on today's session. So I want to show you the deck. I made a presentation and I worked with it. It helped me to kind of run the session in a very structured way, and I think it was super, super helpful. So I want to show you how I structured it and what I'm going to do with the stuff that the information that I collected today. So I started off by showing them what's the agenda. So it's always good to know to prepare yourself to what's going to happen today. And this was planned for 3 hours. It was super, super intensive. And so I actually told them I'm going to have to put a timer, and when the time is up, we're going to have to move forward. Even though each one of those 20-minute bullet points we can discuss on for hours, if we want to get stuff done today, if I'm going to have all the information that I need, I'm going to have to stop you. So we're going to have to move very, very fast and stay really, really high level, because it's really easy to fall down into the technical discussions of how we're doing stuff and what are we doing. But if we want to stay focused on strategy, I have to facilitate the discussion and keep it always focused on the high level. So after I presented the day, I kind of told them a little bit about myself. I got the feedback from different clients that maybe I didn't, because I'm coming into the meeting, not everybody on the meeting knows me. The CEO never met me, and so I have to kind of give the context. For me, I started in advertising, then moved to branding, then worked with several startups. Now I'm doing Prospero and I have the YouTube channel, just so they could get a feel of who I am and the project that I'm working on and how I'm helping different companies and what's my background. So I started off like that. Then I described them how the process of the whole project is going to look like. So today we're kicking it off. Then I'm going to have a strategy presentation where I'm going to show kind of the creative brief that was created based on today's kickoff discussion. Then I'm going to work on the brand design, and in this case, in parallel, we're going to work on the deck narrative. Then I'm going to present creative presentation, and once we approve that or do some iterations on that, I'm going to actually do the asset design only at the end of the project. Then I kind of interviewed them about who they are, kind of their life story. It was basically just like 10 minutes per founder, but it's very, very interesting to understand who are the people that started this company. A lot of times, especially in startups, when you start a company, the company's culture is very much based on the history and the personality of the founders. So it's really important for me to get to know them, who they are, their history, why they act the way that they do, in order for me to understand what they need. So we talked about that a little bit. Then I had each of the founders tell the story. It was actually everybody's talking at the same time, but telling the story of how they started the company, what's the vision behind starting the company, what's their mission, how do they describe on a high level the product and the problem that they were trying to solve. Then we moved into the first exercise. The first exercise is called the onlyness statement. It's something that I used to do because I learned it actually in this book. The goal of this is it's actually a positioning statement. So the goal here is to create kind of a paragraph. The best way is to see an example like Harley Davidson is the only motorcycle manufacturer that makes loud, big motorcycles for macho guys, mostly in the United States, who want to join a gang of cowboys in an area of decreasing personal freedom. So each one of those sentences answer a question. So what is the category of the company? It's a motorcycle manufacturer. How is actually, what are they're doing? It's their product. Who is their target audience? Where is their target market? Why is actually the reason why they would buy the product? And when is the reason, like what's happening right now that causes people to want to buy this product? So in a very, very compressed five lines, you're supposed to really try to complex everything that you're doing. It's a very, very difficult exercise to do. But what we did is I had every one of the participants write on sticky notes their version of it. Then we put it kind of on the window in that case, and kind of discuss it and see where the conflicts are, because where the conflicts are, where people are not aligned, then you understand that you have a problem of how to define something. In this case, we had a very difficult problem defining the business category of the business, because they were actually inventing a new category. So how do you actually define this? And it's good to have several perspectives, several different people in the company describing the business category. Then we took a break. It was obviously very intensive. Then we talked about target audience. So again, in this case, the framework that I gave them 5 minutes for each to write on sticky notes the type of personas they would meet when they're selling people. So I'm going to this kind of a company. I'm going to talk with somebody in this role, and he's talking to me because he's looking to have this and that problem solved. So they just wrote it all without any discussion. Then we put it on the wall, and again, had a discussion, saw if everybody wrote the same thing, we didn't forget anybody, kind of discussed the personas a little bit. Again, in 20 minutes, you can really dive super deep into it, but it helps you kind of outline everything that you will need to research later on. After discussing the target audience, we discussed the features and benefits. Obviously, this is really, really the core of what they're doing. What is their service? What are the features of this service? And each feature is being translated into one or several benefits. I've discussed previously the benefits, the difference between features and benefits. So for example, the iPhone has a feature of, a camera with whatever, 12 megapixels. But you don't really care about that. What you care about is the benefit, and the benefit is super high quality images, for example. So that's the difference between feature and benefit. You have to know how to describe them both because you're going to present them both. And you have to understand that people do not buy your product because of its features, but because of their benefit. But you have to understand how they correlate so that you can describe them later on. Then we discussed the communication objectives, and the communication objectives is actually at the end of this branding exercise or deck presentation that we're going to work on. What are the people who interacted with you? What are they going to remember? What is your target? What do you really want them to remember, right? So that you know that, right, mission accomplished. They remember that we do X, Y, and that, and they felt a certain way after we've communicated with them. So again, we did it in the same format. People wrote it on sticky notes, put them on the wall, then had a discussion. Lastly, I gave them a chance to see if I forgot anything. That did brought up some ideas of stuff that I forgot to ask about, because this framework obviously doesn't always cover everything that is super important to the company. So I gave them space to say, is there anything super important that I should know that I did not ask you about? And then we did a recap where I kind of told them, from my understanding after hearing everything, where I think the most challenging parts are and what do we need to work on. I have tons of sticky notes here in my notebook because I collected all of them. What I'm going to do with them, I'm going to move them into kind of a more formal documentation and try to start seeing patterns between all of this data so that I can see threads that might lead to creative ideas later on. So first, I need solutions on a strategic base, how to define their strategy, how to define their mission and their vision. So that's still in the strategy phase, but this will also help to inform the creative brief that I will create that will later on guide the creative execution of the work. So that was it. It was really, really intense, but I think it was very productive, and I think they actually enjoyed it too. This kind of sessions is a lot of time, feels like therapy, like group therapy for the whole company, and it's good because it brings up a lot of things that they know are problems, but a lot of times they don't discuss it, or they discuss it but they never reach an agreement on it. So everybody's always feels like it's doing good for the company to even being asked those questions in this framework. So I think they enjoyed it as well, and I think that when they'll see the strategy presentation laying out everything that we've discussed, it will be very valuable for them. That's it for today. I'm super tired. Yesterday I was actually sick, and today I wasn't sure I'm going to feel good, but since this meeting was postponed from last week and they created this really nice offsite meeting for today, I was like, I have to be there. And actually, even though I still felt a little sick this morning, just being there with all the energy and the adrenaline of running the session actually made me feel really good. And so even though I'm super tired, I think I'm much healthier now. Hope you guys are having a great day. I'll catch you guys tomorrow.